This podcast is all about giving you permission to suck. Yes, you're going to love this podcast because I am giving you the freedom to fail forward and suck at something in the beginning. I'm going to share with you some of my own trials and tribulations and how failing actually builds the agility and the business wherewithal to be a successful entrepreneur. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Hey gang, Melissa Henault here with the Burnout to All Out podcast. I'm a mom of three, corporate burnout that built a secondary six-figure income around my 9-to-5 with little kids. This set me free and allowed me to fire my boss and pursue my wildest dreams. It took grit, persistence, and belief. But now operating multiple six-figure businesses as an online entrepreneur and business coach, I have become a serial entrepreneur with a passion to inspire more burnouts to take the leap and go all out and live out their dreams. Each week, I'll bring you inspiring all-out guests, lifestyle business tips, and tools to empower you to take the leap from burnout employee to all-out entrepreneur, making your passion your paycheck. If this mom of three, corporate burnout, can go all out, so can you.
All right, guys, this episode is all about giving yourself permission to suck. Okay. I'm really passionate about this topic because for so many years of my life, I was a perfectionist focused on not failing. And in focusing and not failing, you're actually not attempting new things and you're not growing and you're not actually living out your full potential. So that's what I really want to get into today, is to give you permission to suck at something as you get started. So here's the deal. Did you know that most people don't succeed because they never start? They never start. They never start because do you know why most people never start? They typically don't start because they are afraid of failure. They're afraid of failure. I'm going to talk to you a bit about the science behind that in just a little bit in this episode, and there's good science and we're going to talk about it. But I really want to talk to you about why you should lean in anyway, even when you're fearful of failure. Push against the procrastination and learn to get comfortable with sucking. Because even the experts that you watch and the successful people you see that you put on a pedestal, guess what? They sucked at some point in their life at what they attempted. I will give you myself as an example. 2 years ago, I didn't have a website. I didn't have a podcast. And I didn't have a coaching business. Now, one thing I think you should really take note of is you see people coming out of their shell and actually being willing to take risks. And then they find it's not so bad after all. I mean, have you seen people who just look like they are showing up in life so successful in so many different places and they have multiple businesses and you're wondering how in the hell can they do that? I can't even run one. I'm going to play tough love here and challenge you that you are procrastinating and you aren't willing to suck and you aren't willing to lean in and fail, and it's holding you back. The reason in 1 year I was able to create a website, I was able to create a podcast, and I was able to create a business, do you know why? Because one action actually led to the next. One action towards creating a website thinking, I don't know how to do this. I procrastinated for 2 years, right? But when I finally did it, I was like, oh my God, that wasn't so bad. Let me try to make a podcast. Oh my God, that wasn't so bad. Let me start a business, right? It is perpetual. Now, did I fail as I moved forward? Absolutely. Was my first website super janky? Yes. Okay. But here's the thing, again, I go back to, and maybe this resonates with you. I go back to myself 2 years ago before I created that website. I perseverated over having a website. I had a vision of it for 2 years. Yet I was fearful that I wouldn't know what I was doing. I was fearful that I'd get lost in the process. I didn't know how to code. I thought it would be too expensive. I didn't know who to talk to. And that fear paralyzed me and I was lost, right? And I didn't understand. What did I do? I didn't take action. Oh my gosh. If I look back now, if I'd taken action years ago, right? Right? How many of you guys have experienced this? I would love to hear from you guys in the DMs after you listen to this episode. One thing I've learned over the past 2 years is that many times action is what creates motivation and not the other way around. You'll never figure the shit out if you don't get into it in the first place. Entrepreneurship is messy. You are in uncharted territory. You are creating a new business. No one's ever done it the way you're doing it. You are going to fail sometimes, but you're going to learn from it, right? The moment I took the first leap and created a website after 2 years of delaying it, guys, I want to tell you right now, all by myself, I made a janky little website in 2 days for a couple of bucks. Okay. I'd put it off for years. Here's a tidbit for those of you listening. It was GoDaddy, very turnkey, super easy. Even myself, who's technologically not savvy, was able to do it. And I realized in that moment, in those 2 days, number one, I felt so accomplished that I actually figured the damn thing out, right? But I realized that the fear of failure and the fear of not knowing and the procrastination was way worse than actually just doing the damn thing. Just do it, right? My first website was horrible. If you go back and look to where I started, but guess what, guys? I wouldn't be here today with a business that's done nearly $500,000 in sales in 5.5 months and have this podcast and be operating other businesses had I not leaned into the messy, had I not leaned into failing forward, to having a janky website until I had enough funds and enough know-it-all and enough connections to find someone to upgrade it for me. Guys, imperfect action, right? The action created the motivation because once I got the website up and I started getting leads and had people on the page, right? It motivated me to move forward in a bigger way, right? I was able to craft a new business idea. I was able to launch a new business. I was able to not be so scared of learning the ins and outs of podcasting. I will tell you that my experience in creating my own website gave me the confidence that if I can figure that out, I can figure out podcasts, right? We're starting a new agency right now within my LinkedIn business. Have I ever done that before? No. Are we going to fail forward figuring it out? Absolutely. No one's ever offered the services we're offering to manage people's LinkedIn inboxes based off of our way of doing business, our way of attracting. We're going to have to fail forward, but I can guarantee you this. We wouldn't have a successful agency if we didn't try, if we didn't fail forward and learn from our mistakes. The list goes on and on and on. So I want to tell you something about fear and procrastination. This is where I wanted to get into the science for a second, because they actually go hand in hand. Fear and procrastination go hand in hand. It's your primitive brain trying to protect you from failure and disappointment and upset. It's truly a primitive process where your brain is going, I don't know. We don't want you to cry. We don't want you to be stressed out. We don't want you to be upset at failure. Don't try that. Just let's play it safe. Let's hang out over here where it's really predictable and safe. Just let's not do that. So many people live half-ass lives because they're fearful to take a chance and they let their primitive brain take over. They're not actually aware of what I'm about to tell you. They're not aware that their primitive brain is just trying to protect them when their intuition, if they could tap into it and lean into it, their intuition could take them to places beyond their imagination today, right? Most successful entrepreneurs lean into calculated risks based off of intuition. it's embedded in us, but you can create a learned behavior around it. I used to be super safe, super calculated, super risk adverse, corporate professional, predictable 9 to 5, kind of miserably minion mentality, but I was quote unquote safe, right? As I've evolved into entrepreneurship and taken one calculated risk after another, it's really funny in our household between my husband and I, it's like night and day. And what I'm willing to put on the line and I'm willing to do than him. And it's not right or wrong. It's just his way of operating in his small business versus where I am in my entrepreneurship journey and the calculated risks I've been taking one leap after another. And with each leap, you have more confidence. You're never not scared, right? You're never not worried about potentially the output. But if you have enough opportunities coming your way, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, it's never all feast or famine. It's never do or die, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So how many of you procrastinate through busy work? Like how many of you woke up this morning and you had an intention to start this thing, but then you went to work on a list of other shit that it's not going to move the needle on your business. Maybe instead of doing what you needed to do, you started checking email or cleaning your kitchen, right? Or getting into your DMs, all the things, right? Instead of addressing head on that thing you're terrified to do, that listening to my story, I hope you realize your fear of actually doing it is way worse than getting to work, rolling up your sleeves, right? Embrace fear and failure. They aren't ever truly failure, but rather a lesson to adapt moving forward and be better because of it. Guys, you've heard other episodes. I have failed so many times. They were actually blessings. We're in the midst of a failure right now that's turned into a massive blessing in my business, right? Failure is baked into entrepreneurship. You are in uncharted territory building a new business. How could you ever know everything ahead of time? What you do is you fail better with each experience and you move forward. So what are you sitting on today that you've been procrastinating for quite some time? I want to ask you to ask yourself this question right now, wherever you are, whether you're driving or showering, whatever you're doing. I want you to ask yourself, what have I not started? And then insert this thing. What have you not started that eats at you every day? What is that? You know what I'm talking about. There's that one thing on your list that's in the back of your mind every day. Maybe it's launching a new business. Maybe it's creating a new website. Maybe it's researching how to get started with the podcast. Maybe you're seeing a friend in a network marketing business crush it and you've been wanting to reach out, but you're just not sure how. Maybe there's a chicken lister, somebody you're afraid to talk to about a business proposition. You haven't talked to them. Maybe you're thinking about pitching your idea to someone to hopefully help fund your dreams. Whatever it is, you know what it is in the back of your mind that you're not doing, that you're thinking about. And I want you to check yourself. And I want you to say, is my primitive brain trying to protect me from failure? And if so, you can say to primitive brain, that's cute. Thank you for trying to protect me. But today I commit to leaning into my intuition. Today I commit that I'm going to lean into resistance, right? Talent and success, guys, they don't emerge without effort and resistance. The universe will push back on you when you push forward, and you have to be ready for it. You become conditioned to it and you lean in. So here's the deal. The more you fail forward, the more you realize you're actually getting your education in business by doing this. You can't go to school to launch your own business and entrepreneurship. I mean, you can go to school and get a degree. The actual learning happens in action. You can study all day long. The action creates the momentum. It creates the learning, right? Failure is not bad. Failure is not bad. Likely, the more failures you have, you're also stacking up more opportunities and success. For those of us who've had more failures, I can guarantee you we've also had more success. Why? Because we're willing to take a risk. We're willing to bet on ourselves. And we know that the more attempts and the more traction we get, the more success we're going to have, right? There's a quote. I don't know the actual quote, but we look at Thomas Edison. I think it took him 10,000 times to create light. right? People with a PhD in a certain niche, they just failed at proving their hypothesis more than anyone else. And then they got the title. Nobel Prize winners. They failed in that area until they got to their success. They were experts who failed in their arena more than anyone else. I want you to think about that. Okay. And I want to land on this. Richard Branson, a quote from him says, opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming. I want you to keep this mentality and always know you should jump on the bus that's coming towards you with zeal. Don't wait, jump. I'm telling you right now, that thing that you've been thinking about doing, jump with zeal. And know as you're jumping that there's always another bus coming. Okay? It's never do or die. Take the risk. Take the step. Imperfect action to chase your dreams today. Guys, DM me. I want to hear what you thought about the message in my podcast today. More importantly, as your accountability partner, I want to hear from you on what you committed to, what action you are taking as you end this podcast today. Before you do anything else, I want to hear, what are you taking action to move the needle on that one thing your primitive brain has been protecting you from doing?
Thanks for listening to the Burnout to All Out podcast. For free resources, materials, or information on my coaching services, go ahead over to livethefreelife.co. That's livethefreelife.co. Or check out our Facebook community at Burnout to All Out, and make sure you follow Burnout to All Out on Spotify and subscribe to iTunes. And it would truly mean the world to me if you paused for just a second, gave me that 5-star review of the show, and be sure to share this episode with any burnouts you think would be inspired to go all out after hearing this episode.